folks. Thanks for coming here. First of all, I'm Mudit Gupta. I lead security and smart contracts and Polygon. And today I'll be talking about TWAPs mainly and how they can be manipulated in practice, or how you can avoid having TWAPs that you have built being manipulated. So first of all, TWAP, like what is TWAP? So I'll start with that. TWAP really stands for time weighted average price, which means that it's a price of an asset averaged out over a period of time. So it's good to like avoid spot price manipulation. Like if you get a price of an asset like right now on the spot, it might not be its natural price. It might be up or down based on the last order. But if you get an average price over last 5 minutes, 30 minutes, or something like that, you are expected to get a more natural price. Big DeFi projects like MakerDAO make use of it. Although they do it off-chain rather than on-chain, but just having an average price weeds out those odd data points in spot price. So who uses them? Now talking about on-chain TWAP, a bunch of protocols like Inverse Finance use them. Rari Fuse allows them, so a lot of Rari Fuse pools like VUSD and Float use them. Bunch of new pools on Euler use them, and a bunch of other smaller DeFi protocols are using them. There is one common thing between all of these use cases. I'm not sure if anyone noticed or not, is that all of these were hacked in the last 1 year. None of them used it properly. They all fell into this trap of using risky things without understanding the actual risks. So the question is, like, are TWAPs not safe? Yeah, they're not. They never were. On-chain TWAPs are just inherently risky, and in most cases, the risk is not worth it. There are some use cases with which it might be worth it, but let me explain the risks first, and then everyone can decide if it's worth taking on the risk. So the follow-up question to that would be, like, who uses them securely? And the answer is, I don't know. If you find out anyone who uses on-chain TWAP securely, please let me know. I've not found a single project that does it and has not been hacked so far. Everyone who uses them has been using it poorly and gets wrecked. And you'll understand why it happens. I'll talk about the risks now. So there are many risks like associated with TWAPs. But before going that, let's talk about how TWAPs are manipulated, how they actually work, and so on. So for that, let me explain how Uniswap pricing works. And I know this is going to be a little technical, so please bear with me while I go through the explanation. So here you can see Uniswap follows a price curve, which is X into Y equal to K. Which basically means that the amount of asset A multiplied by amount of asset B should remain constant. So if you buy a lot of asset A, let's say X, then the price of asset X should go up. If you buy a lot of asset Y, then the price of asset Y goes up, and vice versa. If you sell a lot of asset X, the price of asset X goes down. If you sell a lot of asset Y, the price of asset Y goes down. And the multiplication of both is always same. So one goes down, one goes up, the constant remains the same. That's how the pricing algorithm works. And here, the diagram shows 3 different invariants. We only need to focus on Uniswap for now. That is represented by the dotted line on the top. I could have used a graph that only has that dotted line, but unfortunately, this was the easiest graph to find. So here we are. Now here, let me explain how to actually manipulate price. Now, as I said, if you buy an asset, the price goes up. If you sell an asset, the price goes down. So if you want to manipulate the price of an asset on the upward side, all you have to do is buy a lot of that asset. And that will just shoot up the price immediately. And once you have shot up the price, you can do your manipulation. And at the end, you can sell the asset back to the pool for a high price as well, so you don't make any loss. Let me give you a more practical example. Let's think about a lending borrowing platform like Aave. Aave is not vulnerable to this. They use Chainlink oracles for the most part. You can't manipulate them in the same way. But let's consider a scenario where a protocol like Aave uses spot price on Uniswap for pricing their asset. It has happened in the past. A lot of protocols have been hacked in this way, but let's theorize for now. So what Aave lets you do is you deposit some collateral asset, and then against that collateral, you can borrow some other assets. So let's say you are depositing ETH as collateral. Now, ETH price right now is maybe $1,800. I'm not sure. It keeps moving way too fast, but let's assume it's the right price is $1,800. So you put in ETH as collateral, as you put in one ETH, the price is $1,800. So you can borrow assets worth maybe $1,200 from the pool, assuming LTV of 66%. So $1,800 collateral allows you to buy $1,200 of collateral worth of assets. All good so far. If your debt increases more, you will get liquidated. The protocol will sell your ETH, which is worth 1,800, to recover your debt, which is worth maybe 1,200, 1,300. So protocol will not make a loss. But what if you manipulated the prices? So in this case, you deposit one ETH in Aave, but then you go to Uniswap and you buy a lot of ETH from Uniswap. Now, suddenly ETH price on Uniswap shoots up. It goes to $10,000, let's say. And like you have bought ETH for as much as $10,000 from Uniswap, which means you have overpaid for your ETH. So right now you have an impermanent loss. Let's say you are temporarily in loss. But now what you can do is now you go back to Aave. Tell it, hey, I deposited one ETH in your protocol. Look at the prices. It's worth $10,000. Let me borrow $7,000 worth of assets from you, please. And Aave will see, oh, yeah, it's worth $10,000. If I give him 7,000, I can still liquidate and get my money back. I can sell this ETH on Uniswap and get my money back. So Aave gives you those assets. Now what you do is you go to Uniswap and you sell back the ETH you just bought. The ETH you bought for as high as $10,000, you sell it back and you get all of your money back, because basically the price follows this curve. When you bought the asset, the price went up. When you are selling the asset, the price goes down. So at the end, you make no loss. It's the same amount of assets you started with, except the fees Uniswap charges. Usually in Uniswap V2, it was 0.03%, and in the latest version, it can be as low as 0.01%. So you lose 0.01%, let's say, in fee, but you successfully manipulated and got all of the assets back. Now looking at Aave's situation, now they are in a situation where they still have one ETH as your collateral worth $1,800, but they have loaned you out $7,000 worth of assets. Aave can't liquidate you now, not to the full extent at least. Even if they sell your one ETH, they only get $1,800 back, and they are still at a loss of $5,200. So Aave just lost $5,200. You're not going to go back and give them $7,000. You're not going to pay back your debt of $7,000 to get back your collateral. So Aave has some bad debt, which is basically a loss for them. So this is an example of how spot prices on Uniswap can be manipulated. So everyone now understands this, and almost no protocol in the wild uses spot price for pricing assets. So people started thinking, hey, spot prices are not safe. What can we do next? So they came to TWAPs, time-weighted average price. So instead of taking the price directly in that block, which might be manipulated by you, protocols now started taking price that is averaged out over last 5 minutes or last 30 minutes. And the reasoning is you can't have a price be manipulated for so long, otherwise someone else will arbitrage. Like if you buy ETH, buy lots of ETH from Uniswap such that the price goes to $10,000, the expected outcome is that in the next block, someone else will come in and just sell ETH to Uniswap. Someone can buy ETH from Binance, for example, and sell it to Uniswap for profit and just arbitrage the difference. So the price on Uniswap won't remain too high for long. And that is why TWAPs will give you a more accurate price than spot prices. In theory, this is great, this works out, and TWAPs in fact are better than spot prices, but people assume they can't be manipulated, which is wrong. There are lots of risks and attack vectors with TWAPs that we can talk about now. So first of all, people reason that cost to maintain the imbalance is super high in Uniswap. People say that to maintain an imbalance, you need to make sure that nobody else can arbitrage it back. So you need to first create the imbalance by buying a lot of ETH in Uniswap. And in the next block, you need to fill up the block with your transaction so that nobody else can arbitrage. Nobody else can bring the price of ETH back down. And to fill a block, it does cost a lot of money. It can cost you almost equivalent to the profit you might be making. So it's a significantly hard task to maintain the imbalance theoretically. But the problem is that there are lots of loopholes here. One is people assume that you have to maintain this imbalance for 5 minutes to make it effectful and to affect a 5-minute TWAP. It's not the case. It's an average price. Even if one data point is higher, the average is going to increase. That's how maths works. So you only need to really manipulate one block to get the high price. So you don't need to maintain it over a long period of time. Similarly, there are other ways to make it cheaper to manipulate that I'll talk about. For example, instead of filling up the next block, you can think about 51% attacks. When Ethereum was proof of work, it used to cost only 15K per block to do a 51% attack, for example. So you could have just theoretically spent 15K and done a 51% attack on Ethereum to maintain your imbalance. It's not as easy as just paying 15K to someone to do it, because you need a lot of compute power. So you do need those resources, but then there are other ways to do it. And especially with proof of stake, it's actually easier. We'll talk about concentrated liquidity. So when manipulating prices, this graph I was showing earlier was for Uniswap V2. It's just a straight graph, like it's a straight line. You buy as many assets as you can, and the price goes up or down in the same ratio. But the thing is, with concentrated liquidity, although the price graph is the same, the liquidity is concentrated in the current price zone. So actually, you don't have to buy ETH for much more than its current price. All of the liquidity is around $1,600 to $2,000. So you buy ETH for, let's say, $2,000, and suddenly the price will jump to $10,000 because there's no liquidity in that range. That's how Uniswap V3 works. And this means that the capital you are putting at risk by doing this is quite low. You're only paying a premium of $200 versus a premium of $10,000, let's say, on ETH. So concentrated liquidity makes it cheaper, reduces the capital requirement. Then, yeah, people say that TWAPs allow you to take average price for a long period of time. It does, but this is how math works. It's an average formula. If you have infinity and then you add 10 terms after this and then average them, it's still infinity. That's how math works. People can understand that. And by this, you'll see, even if you manipulate the price on one block, it's likely that the net outcome will still be manipulated. Not to an extent that you can manipulate a swap, like a spot price, but it can still be manipulated a lot. And for protocols which deal in stable coins, for example, this can be devastating. If you manipulate the price, so Aave allows up to 97% LTV on stable coins E mode. If you manipulate the price more than 3%, which is not a big deal, if you manipulate the price of a stablecoin more than 3%, you can liquidate a bunch of users on Aave. You can do some nasty things. Fortunately, Aave doesn't use on-chain TWAPs, so it's not that easy. But theoretically, you can by just 3% manipulation. And then what made it cheaper was 0.01% fee pools. So earlier it used to cost 0.03% to go up and back down. Now it only costs 0.01%. So the attack is even cheaper. The other thing is people depend on liquidity a lot to imagine the cost of an attack. So if you look at the Uniswap pool, it has 100 million in liquidity. So you have to buy out 50 million of ETH, let's say, to do the attack. But the thing is, the liquidity is probably not yours. What if the liquidity is just from the attacker who's baiting you to trust it? And they just withdraw the liquidity and then manipulate the price. You can't trust that liquidity unless you are the one putting it in. So that's another external risk that people do not think about. They just look at liquidity. Oh, it's high liquidity, must be expensive to manipulate. That liquidity is not permanent. It can go away any day, not just for malicious reasons, but like, for example, SushiSwap did a vampire attack on Uniswap, which stole a lot of liquidity from Uniswap. What if that kind of situation happens again and the liquidity just moves elsewhere? You will become vulnerable again. What if like US government has been doing crazy things lately, like sanctioning Tornado? What if they sanction Uniswap for whatever reason? Your liquidity will just go away immediately, and then you're stuck again. So liquidity on Uniswap, you just can't trust it. And the merge. So I initially talked about 51% attack and the cost to it, but it was still probabilistic and you need social consensus and things like that. The merge removes those concerns. It actually makes it super easy to manipulate. The reason is that after the merge, you know exactly when you're going to mine a block. You can know in advance that I'm guaranteed to mine block N and block N+1. And when you have this guarantee, you know which you can include your own transactions and nobody else's transaction in those blocks, and you can easily manipulate prices over multiple blocks. So if you know I'm going to be mining block N and N+1, I can start the manipulation at start of block N and finish the manipulation at the end of block N+1 in a guaranteed way without any cost to me. It costs me nothing, not even 15K, nothing. And the price can be whatever you want. The thing here is that it's unlikely that a solo player will have enough stake to get block N and N+1 like consecutively. It's very unlikely from a probability perspective. But the thing with Ethereum is that there are very few solo stakers. Most of the validators are run by Lido or Coinbase, and they have such high stake, they actually very regularly get consecutive blocks. So if any day Coinbase or Lido go malicious, for example, they can drain any protocol that is using TWAP without any cost, which implies like Coinbase being a regulated entity, if any day like the US government comes to them and orders them to do it, they will have to do it. Like there's no way around it. So at the end of the day, then you start, if you are using TWAP, you're basically trusting these centralized entities to be honest and not manipulate your protocol. And if you are doing that, then might as well trust a more centralized oracle like Chainlink or Band protocol or something like that. Because those, you still maintain the centralization risk there, but at least they don't have the other pitfalls that TWAPs have. So it's your choice what to use. Then the final bit here I'll add is that the risk management of TWAP is so complex. I've only gone through some of the attack vectors and concerns I share, but there are many more. And not even Uniswap Foundation actually understands all of it or cares to go into details about those things. An example is like these guys just this month with working with another company released a risk assessment dashboard, which helps people quantify the risk of manipulation of a TWAP oracle. Which is super nice. It's a good start. But the problem with that is that they underplayed the risk by a lot because the methodology they used just didn't count for the complete risk. And I called them out like a few times. These are some of my tweets. For example, to manipulate a USDT pool, they made an argument that, hey, if you want to buy $40 million worth of USDC, you need to spend $40 million worth of USDT. Theoretically sounds good, but practically doesn't make any sense because you can loop. You come with just $1 million of USDT and you buy $1 million of USDC from Uniswap. Then you go to Curve, you sell that $1 million of USDC, get back $1 million of USDT, And then you rinse and repeat. You go back to Uniswap, buy 1 million more, go to Curve, sell it, go back to Uniswap, buy 1 million more, and so on. So by leveraging your buys on stable coins, in a 40 million liquidity pool, you can just spend $1 million to empty out the pool. So when Uniswap on their dashboard says that it cost $40 million to manipulate the USDT USDC pool, which is their highest volume pool, they're just outright wrong. It actually costs just 1 million. They forgot that you can leverage in DeFi in a single transaction. In fact, you don't even have to loop. You take a flash loan and then you swap. It's just 3 transactions, nothing more. So in their research, their numbers are right based on their methodology, and it's a good start. I give them that. It's better than nothing. But there are cheaper ways to do it, and the attackers are going to use the cheapest way. They're not going to use the standard research-oriented methodology. Attackers are going to use the most practical way. And the other thing Uniswap did wrong was they only focused on this liquidity amount, that how much USDT you need in your wallet to manipulate the pool. They didn't focus on how much it will cost the attacker. And in DeFi, like getting this liquidity is super cheap. There are like almost every hacker who has hacked a major protocol in DeFi in past has $1 million lying around in their wallets. Like folks just a little north of here for sure have over $500 million on their on-chain wallets. So if it costs $1 million or $40 million in liquidity, that is not like at risk, or which is not the cost, it's irrelevant. People will get that money back after the exploit. So they'll just put it down, they'll do the exploit, they'll get it back. The cost factor is more important. If it actually costs someone to spend 100 million to do an attack, then they won't do the attack till their profit is 100 million. But if it's only about liquidity, doesn't matter. Like I'll use my $1 million liquidity to make $1,000 in profit, and I still have like a super high APR on that $1 million. It's like getting interest on that on those dollars sitting idle. So. And yeah, for various other reasons, this dashboard shared by Uniswap this month just doesn't cut it. And that's my whole reasoning, that TWAPs are just a technology. There is nothing wrong with them, but people don't understand the risks associated with them well enough, and they start using them like in not the correct way. And when you use them in not the correct way, you get hacked. Basically, as the protocols I talked about initially in my slide, everyone who has been using them so far is on a super high risk of getting hacked. It's like walking on a minefield. If you put one wrong step, boom, you're gone. You might cross the whole minefield without getting blasted. Like you might go through it, even if you don't know all of the risk. Like you don't know where the mines are exactly, and you can still make it through based on luck. If you know where all of the mines are, then yes, it's a higher chance that you will make it through without being blasted. So like if you are going to use TWAP, make sure you know where the mines are. Don't just know half of the mines and then say, oh, half of the mines will play it on luck. But ideally, just don't go in a landmine. Why do you want to go and risk it in a landmine? There are better alternatives you can use. So what are better alternatives? Traditional oracles. So these, the caveat here is that they are not ideal. They are still centralized. For example, if you're using Chainlink, you're still trusting that Chainlink validators are secure, and my mic is. You're still trusting that the Chainlink validators are secure. They were going to introduce link staking on that to make sure security is derived from link. Even if they do it, then you have to assume that link holders are safe and secure and so on. So there are some like risks here as well. But the thing is, you're in this scenario, in worst case, you're trusting a centralized authority. This is the worst case for a traditional oracle. But this is the best case for a TWAP. In TWAP, as I explained before, you're also trusting validators like Lido and Coinbase. And in fact, you are also trusting operators like Flashbots, for example. Flashbots has over 80% of network control on Ethereum. If Flashbot goes malicious, starts doing this in their node, then yeah, same result. So you're still trusting centralized party in TWAPs. And at the end of the day, it's your choice. I would recommend going with traditional oracles if you can. But if you go with TWAPs, make sure you understand the risks properly. And I'll just wrap it up there. Thanks for listening. And if you want to reach out, you can reach out on my Twitter or have my contacts through my website, or you can reach out to Polygon directly. Thanks for listening in.